Thank you, Comrade. I recognize the presence of the acting president, who is the main man this morning, who is going to address us on various issues affecting our nation, as well as touch on issues affecting the Patriotic Front as a party. You are all welcome. Please feel free to interact and bring out issues that are pertinent and that are good for Mala Zambia. Honorable Acting President, may I call upon you to address the media? Would you like him to sit or would you like him to stand? To sit. To remain seated. So it shall be.
Eastern Province IPS, come and join us here. Are we all set? Good morning to you, colleagues. Simonianka.
Good morning. Lola.
Honorable Acting Secretary General of the Patriotic Front. I don't see members of the Central Committee, but I recognize the IPS for Eastern Province, Secretariat, members of the press. And since I'm live, let me also address our viewers by referring to them simply as my fellow countrymen and countrywomen. I would like to welcome you to our first briefing of the year 2023. The last time we met here was exactly 1 month ago, on the 29th of December 2022. I therefore hope that the year 2023 is looking bright for all of you. For us in the Patriotic Front, nothing has changed. Rather, life is not getting any better at all. We continue to suffer at the hands of the UPND government and its party. If we're not summoned by police and other investigative wings of government, we are appearing before courts of law for all sorts of charges. As I speak, the chairman for information, Honorable Raphael Nakachinda, is in court. Tomorrow, another member of the party will be in court. Next week, other members will be in court. If we're not in court, we're receiving threats, constant threats of violence from thugs, especially on social media. As you are all aware, I recently wrote to the Inspector General of the Police, Lemi Kajora, complaining about these unwarranted threats on us. Not surprising, no action has been seen to have been taken by the police. I say not surprising because it has become evident that the police give a blind eye to hate speech orchestrated by people who speak on behalf of the UPND. And yet they are quick to arrest and charge those they perceive of as speaking against the UPND. Colleagues, we called you here so that we could talk about a number of issues, including what I've just spoken about. But now I'd like to focus on where I'm saying for many of us, life is not getting any better. I would like to remind you, fellow countrymen and women, that at the close of the PF government in August 2021, the average cost of a bag of breakfast mini meal was 135 kwacha. 135. And that of a bag of roller meal was 110 kwacha. As of today, breakfast is selling at an average of 240 kwacha. 240. Whereas a bag of roller meal is selling at 180 kwacha. August 2021, breakfast was 135 kwacha. Breakfast. Average. Today, roller meal is not 135 kwacha, it is 180 kwacha. We have heard Vice President Mutaena Lumango telling us that those of us who can't afford the price of breakfast mini meal should eat roller meal. And she said it, by the way, it is nutritious. She did not say buy roller meal because it is nutritious. She said because you can't afford breakfast mini meal, buy roller meal. And by the way, it is nutritious. This is the simplistic approach of the UPND government to the vexing challenges of the ever-increasing cost of living in Zambia. Very simplistic approach indeed. As far as the new doom regime is concerned, the fact that we cannot afford the cost of electricity, we should shift to charcoal for cooking, and paraffin lanterns to koloboi for lighting. For them, the fact that we cannot afford the cost of cooking oil, we should resort to unprocessed animal fat or groundnuts. And that is if we can afford them. The fact that we cannot afford fuel for our motor vehicles, we cannot afford bus fares for our children, we should resort to bicycles if we can afford it. Or better still, resort to our 2 legs. Walk to work, walk to school. Very simplistic approach. The fact that we cannot afford beef, what should we do? When we want animal protein, I'm sure she'll suggest we should resort to rats. Worse still, the fact that we can't afford drugs because there are no drugs in hospitals. What is a solution? We should consult diviners and bush doctors. That is the approach of the new doom government. You can't afford the breakfast mini meal, go and buy roller. As if roller is any cheaper. 180 kwacha is not cheap. She's selling it only for 6. How can she possibly tell us, like she has done here? If you don't have money for breakfast, eat roller meal. And this is a government which said they are a government of economists, a government of fixers. Sure. This, unfortunately, is what we have ended up with when Zambians voted for people who claim to be angels. We have fixers who have tended to be mixers, dribblers who have no clue about governance. These are the same people who have told us that they are increasing commodity prices so that they can come and reduce them later. What kind of government is that? We'll create pain for you so that when we come and soothe that pain, you consider us as angels. And indeed, I want to assure you that this is the ploy of the UPND government. Because they have realized that they cannot reduce any of the prices that they promised you, what they want to do is to increase them to the roof. So that when they reduce them, then you'll be clapping and saying they have reduced. That is how dribblers operate. They blindfold you. They are deliberately increasing costs so that after some time they reduce them. But they will not reduce them below what they inherited from the Patriotic Front. But because they have reduced them, unfortunately some of us Zambians will be applauding them. Especially praise singers, they will be applauding them. My dear fellow countrymen and women, need I remind you that diesel, which was selling at 15 kwacha 15 August 2021, today under the government of the so-called economic managers is selling at 26 kwacha 44 ngwe, an increase of more than 70%. And yet the angels promised, before they formed government, they promised that they'll reduce it to 12 kwacha. Now you can imagine, if they increase the price of fuel to 50 kwacha, and in 2024 they reduce it to 26 kwacha, then people will say, yes, they have achieved it, they have reduced it. They are preparing to hoodwink you, Zambians. Remember that the 5 liters of cooking oil today is selling around 230 kwacha, from 150 kwacha in August 2021, an increase of 65%. So if they were to reduce it now to 200, praise singers will say, you see, it's a working government. They are reducing prices. Their trick was let out of the bag by no other than Mutalena Rumango. We're increasing prices so that we come and reduce them, and then you shall applaud us. A 50 kg of fertilizer, which was costing 650 in August 2021, is now fetching 1,200 kwacha. And this is under the leadership of people who call themselves farmers. People were saying, we are farmers, so when we come, you will see the farming environment will improve. I am sure that Madam Narumango's solution to this problem of fertilizer is that people must use animal manure. Go and get cattle dung now and use it as fertilizer, because you can't afford fertilizer. I wonder how many animals we have in Zambia for us to generate sufficient animal manure for the whole country. Fellow countrymen and countrywomen, I wish to reiterate what I said in December last year, that we must brace ourselves for a very difficult year ahead. Seeing that the price of roller meal is already at 180 kwacha in January, you can all be sure that it will rise to above 200 kwacha by April this year. This is so because the new Doom government recklessly exported all the maize stocks that they found from the 2020-2021 farming season and from the 2021-2022 farming season. And now we have very little to no reserves at all of maize. When you ask them, obviously, what do? Blame it on the PF. The reduced level of the water in the Kariba is because the PF took the water. The cost of living is increasing because the PF borrowed. The lack of drugs is because the PF did not do anything about it. Everything is PF. If it is not PF, then it is Ukraine war. I wish to ask countrymen and women, what kind of a responsibility is this? Everything is blamed on others. When are you going to provide solutions? I wish to enjoin all PF members not to lose sleep from this blame game. Let us endure it, for it shall soon come to pass, when Zambians shall say enough is enough of this level of irresponsibility. As a matter of fact, they themselves are starting to realize that their attempt to shift their failure on PF is starting to boomerang. See how recently, only last week, they disowned one of their praise singers who accused millers of increasing meal prices because they are owned by PF. They themselves now have started to realize this is not making sense. So my fellow members of Patriotic Front, let us endure, but only for a short time. Very soon they themselves shall not be able to cast any blame on the PF. Now, while Zambians are being subjected to wallowing in poverty, the #1 citizen of Zambia has decided to make himself marketing officer of Zambia. He has decided that he shall work from outside Zambia and only be in Zambia when he's transiting from one foreign country to another. He will be in Zambia only to change suitcases. I say this because all of us countrymen and women who have been counting know that in the last 17 months since President Hakainde Hichilema was inaugurated, he has made 31 foreign trips. In 17 months, 31 foreign trips.
Sure.
And we're told by one of his advisors that in those 31 trips, he has attracted $2.5 billion. He has attracted $2.5 billion in 31 trips. First of all, where is that $2.5 billion? Where? Pledges of investment? People have made pledges which shall come. And then you say you have attracted 2.5 billion? And by the way, have we forgotten that President Hakainde told us during his campaign that I have such a large network of international supporters, of global connections, and the moment I'm elected president of Zambia, there shall be $250 billion that shall come into Zambia. 17 months after he was elected, we're being told 2.5 billion. Not even 25 billion, but 2.5 billion. Only 1% of what he said he would bring. He told us he would bring more than 200 billion just after being elected. But after 17 months, 2.5 billion. Which 2.5 billion hasn't even been received by Treasury. $31 trips, foreign trips in 17 months is almost 2 foreign trips per month. 2 foreign trips per month. President of a country. And this is a president who told us that his predecessors were making unnecessary trips. They should be in Zambia and govern Zambia from Zambia. He has forgotten. For him, he's trying to govern Zambia from outside Zambia. Now, colleagues, all of us know that one who visits friends for genuine reasons is also visited by friends.
True.
If you go visiting, you must also receive. You can't be the only visitor. Now, in the last 17 months, how many heads of state have come on state visits to Zambia? to my recollection, in the 17 months, whereas our own president has been hosted 31 times as a visiting president, he has only hosted 7 presidents. Him 31 times he has been hosted, and then he has only hosted 7. There must be something wrong there. And I leave it to Zambians to decide what is wrong. I've spoken enough for January on the governance, and I would like that these matters are debated and spoken to by my fellow members of the Central Committee. As you're well aware, as acting president, I don't like to speak all the time. I would like my colleagues to speak, and I'm assuring you that members of the Central Committee will be inviting you to come and listen to them on these very important matters. I would like to spend a few minutes now on PF issues. A few of you colleagues this morning called me to ask me this question and that question, and I said, please come to the Secretariat, and I hope you are here. I would like to inform you, countrymen and women, that we held our first Central Committee meeting of the year on Saturday, 28th of January. A communique of the proceedings was duly published by Honorable Raphael Nakachinda and his committee. Today, I just want to indicate that the Central Committee received a working document on the refinement of the party constitution, the process of which commenced in 2011 and was renewed in 2016 and recharged in 2022. When I first met all our colleagues who were indicating interest to lead this party, one of the issues they raised was the Constitution. They reminded us that the process had started and hadn't been concluded. The refinement of the Constitution is a process that is needed before we proceed to the elective extraordinary conference. This is so because it is vital to ensure that the playing field is leveled with regard to candidates as well as delegates. And by the way, when I talk about candidates, the Central Committee meeting that was held on Saturday had the participation of 6 of those who have expressed interest, because they too are members of the Central Committee. And they too agreed with the process of refining our Constitution. Members of the Central Committee went away with the working document and will reconvene during the month of February 2023 to conclude the process of preparing the amendments to be presented to delegates to the National Council in accordance with Article 71, Subarticle 2 of the Constitution. Again, I want to emphasize that this is being done so as to safeguard the party from unnecessary challenges that may befall it if we went to the elective conference without making the needed amendments to our Constitution. In view of the process of refining the Constitution, the Central Committee resolved that the adoption of the rules of engagement and campaigns for the forthcoming elections of the party president shall be reserved until after the February Central Committee meeting. As such, it was further resolved that campaigns for the party presidency be stopped forthwith. Members of the press particularly, we beg of you not to tempt our colleagues who have volunteered to lead this party. When you interview them, please don't you interview them as candidates. Interview them as members of the party. Don't tempt them. All provincial chairpersons and members of all our party structures, all party committees across the country are hereby advised to take heed and to report any campaign activities that may take place within their areas of jurisdiction. This is not to say people are not allowed to speak. No. They are just stopped from campaigning for themselves while being allowed to speak on behalf of the party. And I encourage them, voca, talk. Talk about the ill governance that we're living under. Talk about the dynamism of the Patriotic Front, but not yet about your suitability for presidency of the party. And as all of you members of the press and discerning fellow countrymen and women have witnessed in the recent past, some of those of our colleagues who have offered themselves to lead this party have been engaging in styles of campaigns that have raised numerous questions and disquiet amongst themselves, among members of the party, but also in the general public. We have seen this happening. And this is one of the reasons why you have said, stop it, until we come up with rules of engagement. This brings me to a matter that is extremely topical. And it has been topical ever since Friday, 23rd of January. 27th of January, sorry. 27th of January. This is the matter of the press briefing addressed by one of those who have volunteered to offer themselves to lead this party, Honorable Member of the Central Committee, Miles Sampa. The matter of his press briefing was raised and discussed in the Central Committee on Saturday, 28th. And Honorable Sampa himself was in that meeting and was accorded an opportunity to express his side of the story. Some of the statements that were made by Honorable Sampa were indeed in extreme bad taste. And they must be condemned in the strongest terms possible. Allowing members to cast aspersions against other members is a recipe for anarchy and a danger to the unity of the party. We have heard and read numerous reactions from members of the party and general commentators, and we agree that such conduct cannot go unnoticed. Yes, we agree that there are many out there who are issuing unwarranted attacks against fellow members of the party. We agree, there are many. And we condemn that. However, Honorable Sampa is not an ordinary member of the party. Honorable Sampa is a senior member of the party. Honorable Sampa, even in his own press briefing, was telling the whole country how he is one of those who are founding members of this party. who joined the party in his early years. He therefore knows better and should know better how not to misconduct oneself. Especially that he is one who has in the past actually stood to lead this party. He contested elections to lead this party in 2015. And he is among those that have formalized their desire to be nominated as candidates for the party presidency at the coming extraordinary conference. Surely, he may not be treated like any ordinary member. The clarion call I'm making today is also to those others who think they will hide behind telephones and issue unwarranted attacks on others on social media. As a deterrent to others and as a lesson to Honorable Miles Sampa, it has been decided that we invoke the provisions of Article 61I and 61J of the party constitution. In so doing, Honorable Miles Sampa is hereby suspended from the Central Committee of the party for a period of 6 weeks, starting today, Monday, 30th of January, 2023. A letter of suspension, which states the conditions of the suspension, shall be handed to him by the Secretary General. Nonetheless, for your information and for the information of members of the party, the conditions shall include: 1. I said include and not limited to. The conditions that will be contained in the letter that will be handed over to him by Honorable Secretary General include: 1. That Honorable Sampa is precluded from attending or participating in any meeting of the Patriotic Front. This includes caucuses of honorable members of parliament, caucuses of PF members of parliament. During this period, he is precluded. Number 2, Honorable Sampa is precluded from making any public statements for and on behalf or concerning the Patriotic Front. The other conditions, if he wishes himself, he will announce them to the public. They will be contained in a letter that will be handed to him before the end of today. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you, Acting President.
Sorry, before that, Mr. Mwanza, I'm so sorry. Colleagues, I'd like to inform you that members of the Central Committee visited a friend of ours, former minister of various ministerial portfolios, in the name of Katere Kalumba. He is hospitalized. As all of you know, he was convicted to 5 years imprisonment on the offense of having obtained a bribe of $4,000 when he's alleged to have facilitated an irregular payment of $40 million. He is alleged to have facilitated an illegal transaction of $40 million. And because he facilitated the transaction of $40 million, somebody gave him a bribe of $4,000. What a poor chap that Katere Kalumba is. You facilitate illegal transaction, $40 million, and they zembeleka you with 4,000. Anyhow, we went to visit him, and he asked me to tell you, Zambians, that his body is weak. He is not well. However, his spirit is strong. And indeed, when we saw him and spoke to him, his spirit is strong. He may not be able to sit for a long time because his body is weak, but his spirit is strong. He called me this morning and he asked me again to say, especially to members of the Patriotic Front, soldier on, brothers and sisters, Zambia requires a rekindlement of its people's freedoms. That is the message that I've been instructed by Katere Kalumba to deliver to you, my fellow Zambians, on his behalf. You do well to pray for him. Pray that his spirit continues to be high, but also pray that the strength of his body matches the strength of his spirit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Acting President. Members of the press, if there are any questions or clarifications, this is the time you can ask your question. You tell us your name and the institution you represent, and the Acting President, together with the Acting Secretary General, will be able to respond to those particular concerns. So we can have the first 3 questions. Yes, my eyes, I don't have light glasses. Okay, there's Comrade here. Any other hand? Yes, there's Comrade Mkwema there. So we have 2 questions. 3, 4. So we'll take, oh no, they have been. So let's take first 3. Comrade, and then Comrade Mkwema, and we'll follow that order. Thank you.
Good morning.
Introduce yourself.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Joseph Panda from the Town of London.
Joseph.
Yes. My question emanates from the time of the Constitution ahead of the suspension. Your critics have actually been saying that some of the people that have shown interest to run for the party's presidency are not qualified or are not eligible. So is this issue of refining the Constitution to level the playing field, as you say, does it concern any issues? Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was Comrade Mkwema.
Good morning. My name is Mkwema from Millennium Radio.
Good morning.
I just want to get your position on some tribal and hate speech statements that have been made over the last few days by some of the members that are believed to be PF members. So I want to just get the party's position with regards to such tribal and hate speech.
Yes, Patrick Soko from Camnet TV. I want to get the perspective of the PF. Is it a general perspective, considering that during his press conference, Miles Sampa did indicate that he is in support of Vedanta comeback. But I remember the PF was against this move. Is that the general feeling of the PF? Should Vedanta come back?
Acting President will take those three, then we'll take the other ones.
Are the amendments going to touch on issues of legibility? Indeed, if there are any clauses in our constitution that members feel are deterring others from participating in the leadership of the party, they will certainly be attended to. Because remember what I said, we want to ensure that as we go to the conference, to the elective conference, nobody feels that they were unduly barred from taking part in any processes of electing our leader. So, that is that, my friend Joseph. Mukwima, tribal and hate speech by PF members. I wish you mentioned even one member of the PF who has been engaged in tribal and hate speech. I did make mention of the fact that there were numerous reactions, for example, to Miles Sampa's statement. And I want to inform you that the Central Committee takes serious exception to anyone who engages in tribal remarks. And that's the position we hold. We do not condone tribal remarks or hate speech. This is also the reason why I'm advising those of my members, those of my colleagues, fellow members of the party, who think they can hide behind social media and cast aspersions and insults and hate speech against other members of the party. All of us as Zambians are called upon to engage in politics without hate. It doesn't change anything whatsoever to be cordial in your criticism. I do not have to start insulting anyone for me to appear to be wise. No. We need love in the country. And this day and age, to start talking about tribe in Zambia is a sign of mental weakness. If you hear a person trading on the basis of tribe, you should know that that person is mentally incapacitated. Because anyone who's alive to what is happening in Zambia knows that there is not a single Zambian today who can claim that the whole of his family is only one tribe. No. No. Not 58 years after independence. And not after so many intermarriages. So, Mukwima, my friend, you did well to raise this question so that also for you members of the press, please sometimes help society that when I make remarks that you know are nonsensical, you do well not to even publish them. Because once we continue publishing them, it will become the norm. It will become, I know that you want to report exactly as things are said, but there's also some need for you to censor yourselves and say, this Lubinda chap is useless. Every time he opens his mouth, it's tribe, tribe, tribe. If you allow me to continue using your media space to exhibit my insensibilities, you may encourage others to react. Patrick, is the Miles Sampa position on Vedanta the position of the party? We have stated before that in the party we have portfolio functions. And quite often when you, my colleagues, phone me and you ask me a question to do with local government, even if I'm acting president of the party, I normally refer you to the chairperson of that committee. Miles Sampa is not our chairperson for finance, nor is he chairperson for economy, nor is he chairperson for mines. He isn't. And our position on Vedanta remains the same as the one we had when we were in government. We have not moved on that. For us in the party, we are actually extremely concerned that the people who said we shall fix this in the shortest possible time are failing to fix it. They are failing to fix it. So our position, Patrick, remains the same. If we do change our position, the chairman for finance or the chairman for mines, the secretary general, the chairman for information, or the acting president shall announce it. For now, our position on Vedanta and on mining generally remains the same. For us, we would like to ensure that the exploitation of our mineral resources benefits Zambia. And if it means giving our mining entities to other people who are going to run them better for the benefit of Zambia, so be it. So be it. I'd like to also encourage you, colleagues, to get a copy of our party manifesto and go and appraise yourselves with what we said concerning the economy and concerning the mines. You heard recently the revelation by a UK newspaper about how one company that is mining in Zambia was financing a political party. Why were they doing that? Because they understood the philosophy of the PF. They knew that the PF, if it was to be voted in power again in 2021, the mines in Zambia would not have been running the way they are running now. Would have made sure that those mines are giving more benefit to Zambia than they are doing now. This is also the reason why the Patriotic Front has called upon President Hakainde Hichilema to explain to us the MOU that he went and signed, that he went and supervised signing off in New York on the 21st century minerals, on the electric value chain, electric battery value chain. While all other progressive people in Africa are saying, let us make sure that these minerals are exploited in our countries, let's value add in our countries to create employment, and let it be done by locals. We cannot stand by and see attempts of giving away the exploitation and beneficiation of our minerals to foreigners. Doesn't it hurt us when we remember that somebody stood up in front of the whole world and laughed at us, poured scorn on us? I bought the mine worth $250 million, $400 million by the way. I bought it for only $25 million. How do we feel? And indeed, for Honorable Miles Sampa to be advocating for things like that without consulting the party is wrong. And thank you for asking that question. I'd like to remind all members of the Central Committee that policy statements must be cleared by the Secretary General. We can't just wake up, you go on your own and say, this is my position. And yet at that same time, you are holding a position in the party, member of the Central Committee. Because you asked that question, because the man who made the statement is not an ordinary member, he's a member of the Central Committee. Patrick, I want to assure you that is not our position at all, and we disown that statement.
Thank you, Acting President. So we have copies of manifestos, the physical copies. We'll be glad to to give them out to members of the press, but we also, you can find our manifesto online for 2021 to 2026. It's available online. I remember we had hands from Comrade Aquino. I saw, yeah, Comrade Smith. Comrade there also, yeah. So I'll start with the Comrade Aquino, then I'll come to the lady, then Smith and the other comrade.
Acting President, the PF had not yet announced the campaigns for those who are aspiring to lead the party. But then I think you've announced that the resolution is to ban the campaigns, to stop. I don't know what is really being stopped. Is it media appearances by those who had applied to lead the party, or is it the actual mobilization, or what are we really stopping since the campaigns had not yet kick-started?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Prudence from Committee. I just wanted to be direct on the aspect which you talked about of Mr. Kateri Kanunga. I do understand that he was convicted under the MPD, of which he appealed, and under the Patriotic Front by the High Court, the judgment was upheld, of which he appealed, and under the UPND now, the same judgment has been upheld. Under the Patriotic Front, you had an opportunity to intervene, but that did not happen. Are you suggesting that he should be pardoned by the current administration? Maybe just lastly, if I can be allowed, you talked about if at all you took over power in 2021, the mining sector would have been different in run than they are now. What new things would you have introduced that you did not introduce in the last 10 years when you were in government? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Smith.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon.
President. My question is going just direct to the intimidation by the police, which is going towards the members of the public. Whoever speaks against what the people are going through, they're being arrested. You have seen a lot of arrests, especially in the this month and last month. You have seen some news from Northern Province and other from Copper Belt. What is this intimidation is sending to the members of the public, and what's your take as a party? Because I've seen a lot of intimidation. Even today there was something like a march past, going to the former Vice President, Dr. Edgar Chagwadongo, for the youth to say sorry for what we did in 2021. And that march past has been stopped because of intimidation by the police and the youth from the UPND. What's your take on those issues?
Through your indulgence, I would ask that maybe we take two more and close. I saw there was a hand here. It's been overtaken. Do we have any other, so that when the acting president answers, that will be our last? I'm looking at time also, you need to run with the news, this news. So I'll take it, acting president, that those are the last three questions. Thank you.
Aquino, thank you. What are you stopping when you actually didn't even sanction? What we're stopping are those illegal campaigns. They were not sanctioned, and we told everybody that the rules of engagement, which will include the rules of campaigning, would have to be adopted by the Central Committee. But in the meantime, we have had people going around in the country telling committees, vote for me. On what basis do you want them to vote for you? We have heard some of our colleagues going to television, radio. I heard particularly one person, I'll give examples. One person goes to television, and an interviewer like you people are very smart, you have a huge memory bank. And you ask this person, you are condemning this, but your government was actually starting this process. And the person says, no, I was not part of that. And you want to be president of the party, you're saying, I was not part of that program. This is all because we haven't yet agreed on the rules of engagement. So now we're telling our friends, 9 of them, guys, stop it. Because we did not even allow you in the first place. Stop it. Initially we were thinking, well, these are colleagues and they will conduct themselves in an orderly fashion, they will not create any But then you saw what happened. Somebody now goes and says, me, I'm the one, like the story of Solomon. Me, I'm the one who wants the baby. Now, who is it who is not, who doesn't want the baby? You see? So now you're casting aspersions against others. And we can't stand by watch people tearing themselves. Because if they tear themselves apart now, what will happen after the conference? Will they be able to come back together as friends? No. So Aquino, that's what we're stopping. We're stopping them from projecting themselves as individuals. When they come to a meeting such as this, when they appear on social media, let them focus on party matters, not individual matters. I should not come here and say, me, when I become president, the time for saying what you will do when you become president has not yet come. After the Central Committee approves the rules of engagement, then we'll tell you to go. But even then, we'll also come up with rules and say, please, as you speak about yourself, forget the others. Don't bring them in your conversation. I've said many times, I will not be a better person by getting rid of him. No. I'll only be a better person by rubbing shoulders with him. So that if he criticizes me and tells me this is not correct, I become better. Now when they go to campaign, they want to make sure that they annihilate others. No, that's not how to do it. Katere Kalumba was convicted during the MMD days. He appealed, and during the PF, the High Court upheld the conviction. And now under UPND, his appeal to the Court was also upheld. What are you saying? All I'm saying myself is that Katere Kalumba was convicted on the allegation that he got a bribe of $4,000 when he facilitated the transaction of $40 million. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying who has convicted him or it's a mistake to convict him. I'm just telling you, my countrymen and women, that Katere Kalumba, the reason he is incarcerated is because he is alleged to have received $4,000 for facilitating a transaction of $40 million. And my question myself is, sure, Katere Kalumba, you sank so low. You facilitated people to get illegally $40 million, and in exchange they gave you $4,000, Katere. Does that make sense that you did that, Katere Kalumba? He is my friend, and I'm asking him. Even when I went to see him, I laughed about it. I said, Mwana, sure, $14, and you gave away 40. That's what I'm saying, madam. And when you say, are you asking that Katere Kalumba be pardoned? You know, the discretion to pardon people is presidential. And I'll leave it to the one who has the power. I don't want to say anything about whether you should pardon him. Me, I'm just asking my friend Katere Kalumba, sure mwana, sure. Wamangi wa pasa ka 4 pin. Kome wanapasa 40. That's all I'm saying, madam. What new things would you have done which you didn't do in the first 10 years? Madam, by now, just to give you an example, by now, we could have started the dual carriageway, Lusaka and Dola. But before doing it, we went and did Kazungura, because we couldn't do everything at the same time. So when you ask me things that you did not do in the first 10 years, it is as though you are saying, have you just become intelligent now? Development is incremental. It's not an event, it's a process. Now, having run the government over 10 years, during that 10-year period, there were many things that we started doing in the mining sector. Okay? And there were others that we said, when we cross 2021, there are other things we can do. For example, before 2021 elections, when gold was discovered, what did we do? We said we're going to establish a company called Zamgold. For what reason? We did not want our gold to continue being exported without Zambia benefiting anything. You remember that even emeralds, at once upon a time, our Zambian emeralds were auctioned where? In India, remember? Yes. We take our emeralds, pack them, take them to India, and ask people, even who are living in Zambia, to go to India, to go and take part in the auction of our emeralds. Then we said, no, Vane, this is wrong. Let's auction our emeralds in Zambia. What happened because of that? People who come to take part in the auction, they fly into Zambia, meaning demand for flights into Zambia increases. When they come into Zambia, they have to drive from the airport to the hotel, meaning our transporters are getting money. They stay in hotels, they eat our food, they grow our economy, even before they go to the auction floor. So, madam, there were many things we were doing. But going forward, like I said, Juan Antonio will give you hard copies of our manifesto, but you can also find it on our Facebook page. But I'll say to you one of the things we wanted to do. We wanted to establish a regulatory body to regulate the mining sector. You may recall, those of you who are old enough, you may recall that Kaunda left what was called Metal Marketing Corporation of Zambia, MEMACO. Remember? During those days, you could not sell any minerals from Zambia without passing through a government agency. And that way we're able to control, we're able to check what minerals are we exporting so that we can make benefit from this. Whoever was mining was selling to MEMACO, for MEMACO to sell. And we wanted to come up with a regulator. We also, madam, wanted to ensure that ownership of these mines must also be in Zambian hands. When you go to these companies that are mining, they are Muzungu owned, and yet the Muzungus don't even stay in Zambia. Who are the ones who are running those mines? Zambians. The technology is among us Zambians. Zambians know how to mine. And yet there are no Zambians who are shareholders. We also wanted to make sure that this CMIH increases its shareholding on behalf of Zambians. What have we seen instead? The liquidation of shares of ZCCMIH in some of the mines. So, Madam Prudence, you do well, my dear, to get a copy so that you can read it, and please be kind enough to add to what I've said in your story. Write some of the things in our manifesto. Smith, first I have to confess that I'm not aware of youths going to our former president to give him solidarity. I'm not aware of that. I don't know if SG knows anything. Secretary?
No, sir.
No. So if there's somebody who has mobilized those youths to do that in the name of the party without Secretariat knowing, then again, that is a breach. Because we ought to take responsibility for everything that happens with our members. But I have to confess I'm not aware, and I hope that the organizers will come and report themselves to the Secretary General. But the question you raised, intimidation of the public by the police. Can you imagine a commissioner of police, no, not even commissioner, what do they call it? Officer in charge of the police, making a statement without any remorse and without any, what's the word, without even thinking what they are saying. She makes a statement and says, forthwith, I'm not going to allow any PF meetings in the province. How do you do that? How? Who gives you the power? No, they have no power. The police have no power to stop people from meeting. They have no power. Not even under the current Public Order Act. They have no power to stop people from meeting. The only excuse they can give is, sorry, we don't have manpower to come and give you protection. That's the only excuse they can give. They have no power under the law to say, yes, we allow you, or no, we don't. No. All they have to tell us is, we don't have power, manpower to come and marshal your meeting. That's all. But yes, I spoke about the intimidation. Somebody appeared on social media, the story of the late Tutwa Ngulube. Tutwa got that social media where somebody is threatening his life. He went to the police and said, please, I'm a citizen of Zambia. Look at this person, he's threatening my life. And the police are quiet. They don't do anything. Many people have been threatening us in the Patriotic Front. I saw somebody on social media not too long ago threatening another leader of an opposition political party. And the police are quiet. But when Raphael Nakachinda tries to use a Bemba saying, put your bums down, Bamanga, that is indeed intimidation. And it must stop. Huh? It must stop. I had somebody a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, the year 2020, I think, on the in Northern Province. Ingaisa akupera 1 pin, wamweba to, naba na wengi sana, umpe na imbi, akupera 10 pin, inga wapushwa wamweba ya, na akuchenjisha, shan. Was he arrested? And that was during PF, and they were saying PF is brutal. Huh? We heard also in Southern Province. You remember that story in Southern Province? Huh? Then we heard the translation changed. Even for those of us who know Tonga very well, the translation was very strange. But I said, give your friend. The actual phrase was different. No, that phrase means give your friend. Was he arrested? No. So you're right, Smith. I did write to Inspector General of Police to complain that it is not correct. It is a danger to the peace and tranquility of the country that for some people they can be threatened, their lives can be threatened openly, and it takes no action. But for others, just for saying something, even something that you know this person is saying this in jest, you arrest. Huh? Now even Chimbuye Musie, kupanga Chimbuye Musie, because mzambo mangi wata. That muntu ena zina ya Chibemba, he wants to try and do what his grandfather was doing with the grandfather of Mr. Mwanza. These days Musie. So I agree, and we are really hoping that the police will take heed of this plight of many Zambians. Some of the people are being arrested. They are being arrested simply for criticizing, and because the powers that be would like to see that they are being protected by the police. And Lemmy Kajova is in a hurry to prove that he's going to stop anyone who says anything against the government. But that's not fair. However, I also want to emphasize what I said earlier. We can practice politics that are clean, that are devoid of vulgar language. I said myself, I find the solutions of Madam Narumango very simplistic, but I will not insult her. For me, I wonder what she thinks in the head when she says things that she says, but I will not insult her. And I'm sure that the message is heard even better than if I insult her. So my friends, let us engage in criticisms and praises without meaning to destroy. Those who praise, osa tiyopesa. Naise who criticize, osa tukwana. Let's provide leadership in this country. Christian nation full of insults and threats. Tukakuimina na mapanga. The police are quiet. Tutwa died up to now. The fellows who are threatening his life are walking free. Thank you very much, dear colleagues.
Thank you. I'll ask the Secretary General to conclude this, just a few words of thanks, and thank you so much to the media. Then after that, we can close.
Acting President, thank you very much. Colleagues from the media, we are very, very grateful for your coming. And I also want to take advantage of what the Acting President has said, is that please take a copy of the PF manifesto. Because sometimes I totally agree with people who said that Zambians have got a very bad culture, reading culture. If you read this document, colleagues, 90% of the questions that you are asking, that people ask about what PF did and what PF wanted to continue doing, it's all here in this document. You hear some of our colleagues in government talk about things. Why didn't PF do this? Now they are giving, it's all here. The beauty about this manifesto, it outlines what we found in 2011, what we did between 2011 and 2021, and what we said we are going to do beyond 2021. So this is a very important document. Even those who go to your TV stations, colleagues, those with TV stations, with radio stations, when you are interviewing them, please have the document, have this document by hand. Once he says something, interrogate him. You say, but it's here in PF manifesto. This is what they did. This is what they failed to do. And this is what they wanted to do. In a nutshell, thank you very much for coming, and we are very grateful. And may God continue blessing you, but ensure that you start buying roller milk, or else you starve.
Thank you, SG. Thank you, Mr. President.